All right. Good morning and good afternoon for everyone across the exteriors world at Magna. Thank you very much for joining in on today's session. It is going to be focused on boosting workforce productivity with a particular focus around specific use cases that we are seeing both from back office and also frontline. And also, we've got some really great special guest speakers today, which we're excited about from the exteriors world to share their lessons learned and also their experiences too. So my name is Zach. I'm the global account lead for Magna at Microsoft. Very nice to be speaking with you guys today. So just a couple of housekeeping items. Today's session is going to be recorded. And Mike, I'm just going to mute you for a sec until you start speaking because I'm getting some background. So some housekeeping items for today's session. It is going to be recorded. We'll stop the recording during the Q&A session, so feel free to ask questions throughout or at the end. If you want to mute or unmute your line, along the bottom of your screen in a Teams meeting, if you put your cursor right in the center, there'll be a bar that opens up to either turn on your video or what have you, but you can also mute and unmute by clicking the microphone icon. To ask a question at any time during the session, feel free to click on the little chat bubble, and then you'll be able to ask a question along the right-hand side of your screen. And we'll be monitoring that throughout today's presentation. And if you do not have a headset or you'd like to dial in, you can click on the little three bubble ellipsis here, and then you'll have an option to show call-in information. And at that point, you can dial in using your telephone keypad. So with that, let's get started. We're excited about today's agenda. We're going to do an overview about our perspective on manufacturing from a Microsoft standpoint as it relates to modern workplace and creating that modern workplace environment. And that'll be Mike Gardner that leads us through that. Then for the featured topics today, we're going to be looking at worker productivity through two different lenses. From a knowledge worker perspective, and a knowledge worker is what we would see as typically a salaried employee, someone that's in the office, not on the shop floor. And we'll share some of the top questions that we're getting, and Ket's, the customer success manager for Magna, is going to share with us both the top questions she's received over the last 30 days, as well as the answers to those questions. We also have some very exciting Magna guest speakers. Rob Wambo from Norplas is going to share his team's experience with Microsoft Teams. What better way to learn about how to get started and experiences and kind of best practices than someone from the Magna world. So very excited to have Rob on the call for that. And then we're going to shift to engaging operators and first line workers. There'll be a use case shared from Luke Laidlaw, again at Norplas, and his experience with a very cool process that he's working on standardizing and automating using some different Microsoft tooling. And then we'll explore, then we'll explore a little bit more around worker assistance with mixed reality, which is something that we're starting to see bubble up across exteriors in different divisions that we thought would be relevant to touch on too. Modern working is a vast topic. There will be multiple different sessions that we have on different components of it. And today is really just to kind of scratch the surface and get us started. We'll finish off with a Q&A. And as always, feel free to go to aka.ms/digital manufacturing learning to provide feedback, ideas, and topics that you'd like to see in future sessions. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mike Gardner. And Mike, if you want to grab control.
There we go. You can hear me okay?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Zach, for kicking things off. This is our third in our Microsoft manufacturing series. And, I'm a mechanical engineer who's working for Microsoft, 20 years in the manufacturing industry, working on digital transformation and digital projects at manufacturers of all sizes. And one of the things that I'm really excited about, at Microsoft is, we go way beyond the desktop with Azure and so forth. So we're covering basically all the areas in the life cycle of a manufactured product, from design through production and operations, through the service, and ultimately through the supply chain. So, we are doing all sorts of things to support our customers get better in all these different areas. And, if you look at how we are empowering factories of the future, today we provide all sorts of technology. We're investing heavily in our platforms. And today we're kind of focused on a couple in our digital modern workplace, as well as our HoloLens and mixed reality later on. But these are kind of some of the processes that we've highlighted in helping become more paperless. Really, we're focusing on, in this session around helping workers become more productive and providing assistance and training and so forth. But there's all these different applications, and you're going to see some examples of all of them. Ultimately, we're trying to make the users of our technologies experience better, right? And that's what we're helping our customers do too. So if it's from an engineer working on designs or new processes, or individual operators who are on the line trying to contribute in terms of building the products better, we're covering the bases in terms of workflow, connecting workers to information, and providing modern ways for them to be engaged in the process. So in our series, we're trying to empower the workforce. That's the really the theme today. And part of this session is really helping equip the audience here so that you can go back and have some new ideas or new ways that you can assist the people in your workplace. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Katiera Pinto. She's our customer success manager at Magna. She's a specialist in modern workplace, and at this point, she's going to take control.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, so just to cover what Mike was elaborating on, my focus is on adoption of your Office 365 technologies, and I am dedicated to Magna. And what I do is I run a series of adoption activities and initiatives, and part of what I'm going to be going through today, it comes out of those adoption activities and those training sessions. So right now I run a series of beginners teams training sessions. I've been running them for the past few months. And if you are interested, please feel free to reach out to me. My email's there, and I will work with you and your team to set up an adoption program and how you can become the part of these teams training sessions moving.
Kat, one question on that, and I know this is
Yep.
Sorry, one question. Sorry, I was just getting a call on my cell phone too. One question on that from multiple people across the exteriors world that I've received is, can we provide training in languages outside of English for divisions that might be located in Mexico, Europe, or across Asia?
Absolutely. So great question. So right now we're running English trainings, but we are looking at providing trainings in different languages. So if you are interested, please do reach out. I will keep you posted around some of the other language trainings we have offering as well.
Perfect. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, not a problem. Perfect. Okay, so with that, please do reach out if you are looking to set up these trainings moving forward. I'll be happy to help put that together, as well as a full adoption program. Okay, so we typically get... Sorry,
Kat,
there's a little bit of a...
I'm on it. Give me one sec.
Sure,
Someone
thank you.
joined. Yep.
So we typically get 4 main questions around teamwork and collaboration that come out of these sessions. And we'll go through not only what these questions are, but how we would typically address them from a Microsoft and Magna side. First, that's all around co-authoring of documents. People wonder how that even is possible. How can we co-author on documents? And then also the question around how many people can edit at the same time. The second question, all around versionings of documents. How can you retrieve a previously saved file, even files that have been previously deleted? Third question is around the sharing of files. If you store a file in Teams, how do you prevent duplicates from persisting in the environment? And how do you know what the live copy is? And then last but not least is the documentation and storage requirements and/or standards that you may have in your environment today. How does that integrate with what you're doing with Teams and how you're collaborating on documents in Teams today? So if you need to, how do you store and save any finalized or completed documents off of Teams if needed. So with that, let us address the first question on co-authoring. Co-authoring in a document, any document that is stored in Teams, allows you to edit the same document simultaneously. Yes, that means you can edit while your other coworkers are editing in real time. Microsoft allows up to 100 people to do this in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. However, we do recommend for the optimal experience around 10 people editing at the same time. So you can share it with everyone. Anything you store in Teams is shared with your entire team. However, we recommend around 10 people editing at the same time.
Kat, can I ask a question on that from what I've heard?
Sure.
So one of the common use cases that we're hearing from different divisions as we go around on our divisional discovery days is there's this process where one person has an Excel, then they email it to somebody else, then 5 more people send it back and forth, and it's this long process. How would that change in a co-authoring environment from multiple emails today?
Great question. So if a document is stored in a channel within a team and you have everyone who's typically required to work on that document, you have that document that's uploaded once, it's automatically shared with the entire team. Everyone can go in at their required times to edit and work on that Excel file together. You can see where they're editing. So if you look closely over here, you can actually see the cursor of one person editing. You'll see the cursor of another person editing. You'll see the same thing with Excel, and you can see which cell in Excel they're editing at the same time. No need to have and to store multiple documents. Version 1, you send it to the next person. The next person says, okay, now you know what, Zach's made his edits. Zach's edits in here. Then Zach has to make sure he's sending his document, not the previous document, to the next person. All of that is eliminated with co-authoring.
Yeah, and so just to point out, when you're working through different processes where you're with cross-functional teams and you're kind of in the working sessions, it's really helpful because then you can get feedback all at once. You can reconcile ideas, and so when you're putting together, like I said, APQP documentation or DFEMAs or PFEMAs and so forth, you can get that consensus and document it, quite easily. So. We do this a lot. We do this on our PowerPoints and so forth, and other documents internally, and it's pretty slick how that works, right to the desktop.
Exactly, and this document that we created today in PowerPoint, something we did co-authored.
Great.
Perfect. Okay, let me move on to the next one. The second is around document versioning. So if you store something in Teams, a tip is that anything stored in Teams is actually stored in the backend in SharePoint. And through the SharePoint interface, you'll be able to see and retrieve all the previous versions that have been associated with that document. You can see who it's been modified by and the size and also when. And if that's the case, you can go and retrieve previous versions. And you can even restore previous versions.
Yeah, so the backend is SharePoint. So this is important, obviously, when you have controlled documents or release documents, because if you're using SharePoint, obviously there's security around that as well. So if that's your document repository, here's where you can secure it. The other thing is if you're using other systems for your system of record, like a PLM system, for example, most of the popular ones have integrations to SharePoint. So that integration in terms of system of record can also occur for ISO, purposes as well. 26262.
Thanks, Mike. And Kat, quick question before we jump on here. There was a question that came in the chat. Oh, perfect. So there's a question from Joy. Maybe do you want to just share it out for those that aren't able to see the chat right now?
Absolutely. So Joy asked, is there a limitation of storage capacity in Teams? Great question. Yes, right now the limitation in Teams is currently 5 gigs per team. It is set by your Magna Global IT. Okay. Let me move down to the next. Okay, the third question we typically get is around document sharing on Teams. In Teams, you're able to actually share documents and create links to that exact document. So typically, instead of that scenario we talked about earlier, sending files, making modifications, what you can do is you can actually copy the link of a document, right-click on the file, click copy link, and you can share that link so that people are now directed to the latest live copy on Teams. This is a great way to actually share and make sure everyone's using the live copy instead of going to other documents and not knowing where that actual document is stored.
Ketz, there's a question that just came in, and because we're able to do this in real time, we're gonna have some fun if it's okay. So the question is, how much lag is there in seeing what co-authors are doing in a document or spreadsheet? And does the lag increase with higher number of co-authors at once? So I'm just gonna go out of full screen mode, and I believe Mike, you can actually see on my screen right now, both Katsura and Mike Gardner are both in this document that we're presenting. So I'm gonna go and just create a brand new slide, and Mike and Ketz, testing co-authoring. If you guys can jump in and start co-authoring on this slide as well, and we'll just be able to show what that looks like. And the question from Rebecca, it is a very good question around Excel. If you're using actual, like if you're in the Excel file and you have multiple people in it, it's pretty much real time. And the nice thing is you can see if you've got multiple formulas, and you can see here actually, Mike Gardner, when someone is adding or working, a box goes around where they're working on something. So you can see within an Excel file where people are actually controlling.
So Zach, if I might speak is here. So a couple of things on the co-authoring. So it kind of locks off certain areas of the document. So for a Word document, it's going to be a paragraph. So you can have multiple people working on the document, but only one person can work on the same paragraph in real time. For a PowerPoint, it used to be slide, but now there's like different sections of the slide. So it looks like we've improved it because we're sort of seeing it here. And then with Excel, it's on a cell level, right? So multiple people can be working on the same spreadsheet or the same sheet, but the lock is on like the actual cell level itself.
And then we can see Tanner's joining in on the fun too. So he added a new slide, and we were just working on the same thing together. So the more people that are working in the document, it's not so much the lag, but just kind of keeping tabs on who's working on what. But it is that's a great use case. And Rebecca, I appreciate we haven't dug into this specific use case, but Excel, we've heard there are Excel files that multiple people every shift or every day have to go in and input their updates and then send it to the next person in kind of a daisy chain. That doesn't have to happen anymore. You can put in Excel in Teams. Everyone can go in and input their data at the same time without any of that back and forth emailing. Oh, we just got a flare. Yes, I agree, Rebecca. Very nice. Can you give different use rights? Okay, so the next question, and this is exactly what I want to be getting into, so appreciate everyone's feedback. So the next question for the Microsoft team, can you give different rights to the members of the team in Teams, or must this be done on the back end? So I want my team to review, but do not want to give full edit rights to everyone. So different access to, so there is the ability when you share a document to have read rights versus read edit rights. And I believe you can change that. V or Ketz, do you guys want to weigh in there?
Yeah, so on the back end in SharePoint, you can set individual file requirements. However, that's not a commonly used practice, but there is a way to do that. Typically, what we say is any file that's shared in Teams, we want to have that collaboration aspect with the file in Teams itself. But there is a way that you can do that. It also relates to a previous question I believe Roger also asked, is if you want to have a file that's stored within a team and not necessarily available across everyone, there is the aspect of private channels, which is coming shortly, actually should be later this month available. And that allows you to have a channel with its own set of files and a separate SharePoint site that's associated with that channel. Allows you to have documents stored on that SharePoint site available only to a subset of the team. who you choose.
Great. Thanks, Kets. And Kets, I'll pass it back over to you. I believe you still have control of my screen, so feel free to keep going.
Perfect. Okay, so the last question that we typically get is the documentation and storage of finalized documents. How does that fit into the standards that you may have? For example, ISO 26262 for engineering documents and the storage and locking of those documents. What we typically say is that anything that's stored in Teams becomes the collaborative aspect or document that you need to work on. Once it is finalized, from there, you can easily take it off of Teams. You can easily, and then run it through your normal standardized process. You can either download it off of Teams, or there's a way, if you're downloading large files all the time, making sure that it's always kept throughout the normal standardized process you may have for your individual department. You can actually sync the SharePoint site directly to your file explorer, and you can easily copy and paste large documents, folders, files, etc. that way.
Yeah, and I think just to add what I mentioned before, there's ways to sync Teams. The other thing is within Teams channels, if you have submitted into a workflow for release and effectively into your system of record, you can use the URL linking. Most document management systems or PLM systems provide direct URLs to like the released version of a document, so that can still occur. Right. So, but like Kat's mentioned, you know, the purpose of the teams and the collaboration is around that rapid collaboration between individuals, you know, or members of the cross-functional team to kind of get to a point where you want to release documents and so forth or finalize them.
Great. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Kets. Thanks, Mike. That is very helpful. So those are the top 4 questions that we have received in the last 30 days. Just a couple of summary points. Kets is running end user training for divisions and then across all of exteriors. Over 1,000 people have been trained over the summer, which is fantastic, and we're continuing that program. So Kets, thanks for all your hard work there. And just as a reminder, great questions. We'll make sure to provide answers to all those in the recap. Keep them coming in. So next, we are very excited to have Norplast's and Exterior's very own Rob Wambo to share his experiences and how he's using the tools within Office 365 to communicate and collaborate more effectively within his team. So Rob, I will stop sharing my screen, and just in case you wanted to share anything, feel free, but you are on, so go for it.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Sure can, loud and clear.
Perfect. 1 second here.
And we can see your screen coming in too.
All right, can you see my chat screen?
Yep, sure can.
All right, so kind of just a little background. We used to use a lot of group chat messaging. All of our files and stuff are kind of stored in folders on a network drive, just kind of all over the place. You got links to everything in different places. Really hard to remember where everything is at. And I saw an opportunity when Teams was presented where we could kind of bring a little bit of that together. And really the first thing we did to transition over to Teams was just switching over to chat groups. So we used to use WhatsApp quite a bit for a lot of our chat groups, and we switched all those same groups over to Teams chats, and really that got the teams starting to use Teams a little bit more comfortable with it, and just progressed from there. I was able to come in here and pin, some specific teams that I talk to quite often, where we communicate and collaborate on certain issues throughout the day or certain projects. And then from there, it kind of grew. I started building up channels. This is the Paint Technical team, and it's got quite a few channels in it. Anything from shift reports from all of our different teams to certain files that we work on. We have a KPI file that we work on every month together, and all that. It's just a link to a SharePoint where it's stored, but it just getting it all grouped into teams under a certain channel has helped kind of bring all these things that are scattered all over and then put them in one place. The biggest thing I would say right now is Teams for Paint Technical is really built for me as the manager to help me manage my day and help me manage the different areas of the groups. My future goal is to build that up so that it's for my teams to use, built more for them. Couple things that I've found that I really like is the search function up at the top. So we have over 100 different colors that we paint, and sometimes, just looking up granite crystal, bring up all the different informations of granite crystal that's popped up either from harmony events, from some process changes, just different people talking about this specific color. You can see this color pops up quite often. But the fact that I can filter that down, if I know I'm looking for something from a specific person or from a specific team, I can get that information pretty quickly, where if I'd had to do this in Outlook, it would have taken me forever because I don't particularly like the search function in Outlook all that much. So that's just some benefits of kind of having everything together. I can search through everything at once. That's been a big advantage. It's really just been trying to break that communication hurdle. As I go back over the years of doing employee reviews and stuff, communication every year is brought up, like how do I need to improve communication between this group or that group, or for myself to others, and I see Teams as being an opportunity to do that. And linking Power BI reports. I've got a paint maintenance 3 to 5 year plan where we plan our upgrades over the next 5 years on our paint line for me and my maintenance manager to work on, collaboratively. Sorry. Anything from quality events, if they pop up, I could post them to our quality events channel, and where it used to be an email, now I can send that email directly to Teams, and then we can start a conversation based off that email on what needs to be done. It helps kind of bridge that gap between our quality group and our process group. Just being able to mention people and get them on top of certain subjects.
Awesome.
That's really the big thing. It's just increasing communication, bringing everything together, just getting everybody involved.
Rob, out of curiosity, from a chat perspective today, I saw that's awesome. Thank you for walking through that. And if there are any questions from everyone that's on, feel free to post them in the chat there, and we can get through to them. I'm curious, looking back now, because I think it was like April or May when we first met and chatted about the text message strings on iMessage and the complexity around that. If someone is watching this today and wants to get started, what would you have wished you had known 4 or 5 months ago to kind of make the process a bit smoother?
You definitely start with the chat groups. Get everybody comfortable using that. And some chat groups, maybe you don't need a channel that kind of goes with that group. Maybe just the chat group is enough. Depending on the subject, you may not need a channel. So like, I have this Dirt Devils chat group, which is for kind of my systems group who deal with our dirt and hygiene defects on our parts. So we started off with just a text message there, kind of moved it into a channel, kind of went the other way, where now we're just kind of posting a lot of that into our systems group channel. And we don't really use the chat group as much. Just a lot of files and different things that we add in here as far as what we're seeing.
Nice. You're putting pictures in there too and stuff. That's awesome.
Stuff gets uploaded, but then I've got people outside of my systems group that are also posting pictures when they see something that they know the systems group want to know about. So, good example here of Don, who posted some dirty parts that were found, and our systems group, kind of thank them for that.
That's awesome, Rob. Thank you very much for that demo. It's really cool to see where I remember when we first talked about it, it was Dirt Devils was that first chat group where kind of keeping it all in one place, available whether you're in front of your computer, on the floor, or outside of the division on your mobile device. And it's just awesome to see how much this has expanded. And then you mentioned around trying to figure out how to integrate this more with your team. Let us know. We're happy to work with you and crew to figure that out.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Rob, thank you very much and appreciate it. I don't know if you can see my video, but as an appreciation for your participation today, there is a Power Apps and cool water bottle and backpack coming your way. I just picked them up this morning, so I will smuggle them over the border, and the next time I get to Toledo, I will pass it off.
Perfect. Thanks, Zach.
All right. Awesome. Thanks very much, Rob. All right, so that was awesome, and it's great to hear real life use cases. Hopefully that's helpful. That's one of the biggest feedbacks that we're getting is it's great to learn about all this stuff, but the best way to learn is really from individuals that have gone through it. That's one use case. And next up, we're excited to bring a second real world modern working use case from Luke Laidlaw. And I believe I saw Luke on there. So Luke, if you want to jump in and just unmute, I think you should be good to go. And then I can either push slides for you, or if you want to take over and share your screen, that's cool too.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Sure can. Yep.
All right, cool. I'm actually riding in the car on the way up to one of our sequencers right now. So
Okay.
doing a mobile presentation, but I should be able to show you guys a pretty cool feature. Hoping it works.
Okay.
You can actually do a mobile screen share using Teams.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're
You're
about
getting
to do
crazy.
a demo live here. Hopefully it
I love it.
up for us.
Yeah, go for it. I just stopped sharing my screen, so it's all you.
All right. All right, should be sharing here soon.
Yeah, your screen's coming up.
All right, cool.
So
I'll walk you guys through the demo and kind of just give you a little bit of background on what the application was and is. It fully leverages the Power Platform in terms of using Power Apps, Microsoft Flow, and Power BI. So on the front end of it, we're using Power Apps to collect data that was once on paper forms. Flow is used to basically go through an approvals process that I can walk you guys through here in a minute. And then on the back end, the actual reporting done on that collected information uses Power BI. So I'll actually see if I can go into the Power App here. All right, can you guys see the Power App?
Yeah. It
Awesome.
is. It's it's horizontal or vertical. Like it's not. But yes, we can see it.
Is it?
Maybe turn your phone counterclockwise once.
I can see it in landscape. Is it
Okay,
turned
you're
like
good.
90? Okay.
Yeah, it's turned 90. You're good. Let's roll with it. We'll
right.
still get the gist of it.
All right, sounds good. So this Power App was created basically based off of the form that we did have, which was a paper form that whenever a change was made on equipment that might affect quality or production, the maintenance team would fill that out, and then they'd have to actually physically take that piece of paper to the team leader, production manager within an area, and get sign off from that employee. And from there, they would physically take that piece of paper and walk it up to the office to our quality group. So you can see it's a very inefficient process. The idea behind this is that it's all streamlining that process in terms of the physical paper handling, and we're collecting the data. So our maintenance team, they all have iPads that they're using for this Power App. They go through and fill out the different fields here. So they'll select an area in our assembly department, what piece of equipment they were changing, the reason for change. So they'll pull all those details in and actually submit this form. From there, and actually some changes do and don't require approval. So depending on what's selected, it will actually adjust. I don't know if you guys can see down in the bottom right there where it's got approval required or not required. So depending on what's selected as the change, that'll drive through Flow. It'll either send an email to a distribution list that's asking for approval. If not, it'll just get logged. The nice piece about that is that the old process, the paper forms that were filled out, at the end of it all, they were scanned in and just stored in a folder. You couldn't really do anything actionable on that data. Now with this setup using the Power App for the data collection, it goes through Microsoft Flow and does depending on what the area selected was, it will send to that area's distribution list. Can you guys see this screen?
Yeah, we can see your change report.
The Power BI. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Is this one sitting any better? Is that 92?
Yeah, no, they both corrected in a second, so you're good. You're good.
All right, cool. So this is on the back end of the report that we've built out to actually display that data. So we, what once was just stored in a folder as a scanned in document, we're actually able to sort on and start to Pareto like which areas have changes made. We can even use the drill down feature and drill into an area to see our Paretoed equipment changes, so specific pieces of equipment within an area. So there's a lot of insights that gives us that we previously didn't have, and it's all built out on the Power Platform with Power Apps feeding into, and I didn't mention it, but this is all stored in a SharePoint list, all the data that's being collected. So the cool part about that is with SharePoint, we've got accessibility. So if there are things that get put into that SharePoint list, entries that need edited or updated or were accidentally put in, it's still all very accessible information for anyone in our department. And we also have some of the traceability and rev changes and who made edits to what that Ketz was talking about earlier, that we basically have all that accessibility as far as pulling that in. So there's a lot of advantages to it. I don't know if you have any questions on just generally what it is or how we're doing anything throughout that process, but be happy to answer any questions about it.
That is an awesome demo. Thanks, Luke, for running through that, and especially the fact that you're in the car right now, sharing this on your phone, and it's coming through. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gardner,
that's an
do you have
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, we met Luke, I think, in May, and this was implemented, a bunch of different apps. I mean, the great thing about it is that it shows how you can instrument your process and control your process, but also make it easier for the end users. So, just awesome with the initiative that Luke had here, and you can see, what he's done in a very short period of time, along with a number of other apps that we've seen at the line around, from changing glue to assisting users in other places. So, quality inspection, all these types of applications. So I'm going to take the ball here and, just talk about some other things that are happening and some other technologies around worker assistance, right? So we're talking about the shop floor, our mobile workers, our maintenance teams. So these are kind of more case studies that we've had with our technology. But the cool thing is a lot of these things take advantage of some of the technologies that are already being used. So, if we look at, sorry, I have to go back. We go back a couple there, slide. Yeah. So, ultimately what we're trying to do is help empower users to achieve more. So, beyond the enablement that we have within Teams and Office and the co-authoring and Power Apps, when we look at the shop floor, we have all these different things coming at our operators or our teams. And so, with all the changing that's happening, if we can guide the process or we can assist people for troubleshooting or, problems that occur and then capture that information, you kind of saw an example of that in Luke's demo there. So, one of our premier customers, PACCAR, you know them for the manufacturers of Kenworth and Peterbilt trucks. They're really liking the use of guides and HoloLens to help the training process. So, in this case, you see a wire harness installation, which is familiar, I think, in terms of an operation. As you see modern vehicles where their bumpers and their fascias and their are increasingly adding sensors and so forth, those assembly processes get a lot more complex. And so, between different shifts and new people, with a video, you can include step-by-step instructions and then overlay actual holographic images for the individuals. So you can see how they can perform an operation, be led through it step-by-step quite easily. So that, dramatically reduces the kind of training time and familiarity with a new operation or process. The other thing, it's kind of funny because in a way, Luke provided the reverse of this, but using remote assist, you can actually provide collaboration where if you're using mixed reality and you have a worker looking at a machine or a part of the process, you can bring in other people who can see the exact same thing that person is seeing. So, in a way, Luke was kind of simulcasting to the rest of us about what he's doing as an individual. But, using Teams, the same thing works in a mixed reality environment where you actually use Teams within mixed reality. So the operator can see a window hovering in the environment. The people, who are watching the operator can look, they can actually mark up individual areas. So if you're, for example, performing maintenance, or if there's some unplanned downtime and some production equipment, you can quickly assemble a team to get on it and see exactly what the operator or the local person is seeing. And then the last example is where you bring it all together. Right, so Comau, part of Fiat Chrysler, is using mixed reality along with the data that's happening in production. So they're bringing that together in a single environment to improve production. So in this case, it is specifically a maintenance operation where they can pinpoint locations of faults because they can look at the equipment data and the operations, and that'll help lead them through the process a lot faster. So it really provides a way to accelerate maintenance operations and understand what the root cause is. So just to summarize the session, we just walked through a number of really great examples. Love the demos from Rob and Luke, especially because you're seeing firsthand applications of both desktop applications using Teams and the collaboration capability there, as well as, at-line operations where you're changing the setup of a machine and documenting that process and seeing the metrics out of that. So, as you can see, we're trying to help support you and your customers effectively with these different technologies that support different devices and different ways of supporting the individual.
Great, thanks, Mike. Yeah, we definitely just covered a lot of ground there. Awesome. Just to kind of recap, top 4 questions that we are getting from the user training sessions that we are delivering so far. And there is a ton more content. And if there's interest learning more about co-authoring or document sharing, any of those topics, feel free to reach out to Ketz, join in for any of the upcoming sessions, or please sign up for both the newsletter and the tips and tricks. Ketz sends out a tip of the week every Wednesday on a particular topic of interest, based on what she's seeing and hearing from the different divisional trainings that she's doing. At this point, if you do have any questions for today's session, feel free to post them in the chat and we will go through them in a second. All of the content that we go through, as well as the recordings, is available in a link that will be sent out after today's session as part of the email recap. And these, let me just see if I have it up here. Thought I had it up. Give me one sec. So if you haven't seen this presentation yet, here is the link, and it has all, so we've had 3 sessions so far. It has both the deck as well as the recording for each session. We'll post out today's deck and recording shortly, so feel free to share those with others on your team if you think they would be of interest. Everything that we've talked about today, we talked about pretty quickly. If you want to learn more, there are training links with videos that will walk you through. There is a Magna portal that's part of your Magnet intranet site, or Magnet 3.0, called WorkSmart, that has some more information in there as well. And if there are topics of interest that you would like us to tackle in upcoming sessions, please feel free to submit those there. The goal of this is to share best practices, use cases, and also questions that we're getting in one division across the rest of exteriors, because if one person has the question, probably many others do. A little update and some housekeeping. We are continuing to do this on a weekly basis. Next week, however, there is a full Microsoft annual general meeting. So the entire Microsoft team will not be available. So we'll be missing next week, but then we'll be coming back with 4 sessions on topics that we are getting quite a bit of interest around. So cognitive services, data and data storage, going paperless, which is probably going to be an extension of what we saw from Luke's demo today, and then defect detection. And then we'll take the week off around the North American IT conference. So there'll be 4 upcoming sessions. Feel free to share these across your team, every department that you think might be of interest, and we will be updating the invites in the next day or 2 for each of these upcoming sessions. And with that, we'll shift over into our Q&A. We've got a minute or 2 here to wrap up. Let me just have a look in the question and answer. So thanks, Ketz, for posting out the sign up link there, and Mike for some more info around mixed reality. Just to the team on the Microsoft side, curious if Vikas, Tanner, Ketz, or Mike, if you guys had anything else that you didn't get a chance to answer on in any of the questions from earlier on.
I don't, but I just wanted to open up if there are specific processes around engineering, manufacturing, or quality, especially controlled ones that you want help with. Happy to answer any questions. I've spent a lot of time in that area.
Yeah, it's a great